ability to suffer. Um, so there's clearly something there that like some kind of well-being that should be
Where
preserved.
is that in the Bible?
It's not. It's not. I guess I'm appealing to if you think this is reasonable or not. Um, but if we're in a position now where like we can avoid the animal suffering, and God gave these animals the ability to suffer, and I don't think it would be a good God to just want them to suffer, right? So if we could avoid,
Do you think it would be more in line with what God?
Sorry. Oh, your mic just went all fucked up.
Oh shit, is it still bad?
Yeah, it's trash. What the fuck?
what about now?
Nah, you're Gucci.
All right, yeah. So like, granted that like God seems to oh, I don't know how to say this, set some kind of example through the way he wants us to behave uh, with regards to suffering and stuff like that, right? Do you think it would be fair to say that since God gave animals the ability to suffer, that in a world where we no longer need to cause their suffering to survive, as far as we know, that it would make more sense to avoid causing the animal suffering, or do you think God would want us to cause the animal suffering?
I just think the God, if it were the case that there was an imperative on us to do things one way or the other, God would have told us already in the Bible, and he didn't, which just means that and God obviously knows, right? He's known at any point about the animal suffering. Nonetheless, since day one, he's permitted us to eat the animals. So it just looks like there's no imperative on us, and even in light of new information, given the information that's new to us, God already had. So again, it just seems like there isn't anything at all that would change, because God would have
I
already
would
told
just
us if there was something that we ought to do.
I would just appeal. I guess I would just try to appeal to the way you view God. If you view God as one that is okay with unnecessary suffering, where in the past maybe God wasn't specific about it because it seemed to be the case that, in order for us to survive, maybe we needed to consume these animals.
Sorry, why is it
But in the case,
unnecessary suffering?
well, unnecessary to, well, because before, right, you could argue that we probably needed them to survive or for our health or for our well-being. Um, but at this point, I mean, it seems to be pretty clear. Well, maybe I shouldn't have slipped in the word well-being in there, so let me take that back. But at this point, it seems to be pretty clear that we don't need to eat animal products, or if it was clear that we didn't need to eat animal products to survive or to be healthful, or healthy rather, to be in good health. Um, I guess it would just be a matter of, do you think God is your God the kind of God that would that wants to create suffering for pleasure?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's
Okay.
animal suffering.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really much to say there, I guess, because if you, yeah, I mean, if you're okay with adhering to a God that likes to cause suffering, then I don't know. I guess that's your God. I'm not even calling it absurd. I just, okay. Well, I mean, I can't disprove your God, right? So, I mean, you can hold that position. I'm just saying, I guess, granted that God seems to want you to avoid suffering in most cases where possible, right?
Not in the animal case.
Well, the thing is, right, like you could easily say that, maybe it was interpreted in such a way because, it was probably necessary then, but it's not necessary now. And I mean, why would God give them the ability to suffer? That's kind of weird, right? So do you think God just created them so solely for the purpose of them suffering for our pleasure?
Well, it could have been for sustenance also.
Yeah, but why give them the ability to suffer them? Why not make them like plants, right?
I'm not aware of God's intentions.
Right. But granted that God has given us other examples where we should avoid suffering, where clearly, in the animal
Yeah,
case,
but they're human cases.
well, right, they're human cases, but the animal cases, the cases where it doesn't exist for animals seems to be, pretty clearly because at that certain point in time, it's, what we thought we needed to do to survive, or what we maybe did need to do to survive without the science. I guess what you're saying is, well, why didn't God specifically point out, to avoid animal suffering as much as possible in the future, um, as the reason that you're going to continue doing it. I can't answer that because I can't speak on your God's behalf, but yeah, all I can say is, if God gave these animals the ability to suffer, but also, told you that it's permittable to eat that, or permissible. It sounds like he's saying, while it is permissible, he's not saying you need to do it. Like it's not some kind of virtuous act to eat animals. And if you're aware of their suffering, I think in a world where you can avoid it completely, it would fall more in line with God's desires based on what he's expressed. Otherwise,
Yeah, I don't think that God has any desires in regards to stopping animal suffering. Well, at
okay.
least none that we're aware of through the Bible.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just saying that. I mean, yeah, I'm just saying that while that may be the case,
right? It could be that you're just unconvinced of it. So I'm assuming if you don't have a case against it and you don't think it's sound, because if someone thinks it's sound, they don't usually reply by going, well, does the fact that I don't have a case against it mean that I think it's sound? Right? If you don't have a case against it and you don't think it's sound, then what that suggests is that you're uncertain of the truth of at least one of the premises. So I'm just wondering what premise that is.
Well, like I said, the trait equalization process has language that's unclear.
What premise do you not accept, though? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Well, it's involved in premise 1 and 2. I mean, I'm not even familiar with the most recent version. I'm not up to date with it. There's been a lot of versions, so...
Okay, well, the second premise just talks about someone holding a given view, right? So, do you want me to go and copy-paste the argument for it?
I mean, I'm not going to raise some big objections to it, so...
Well, I mean, you seem to be on quite the hate spree, right? So I have a bit of fun, like, just showing people like you never make that much sense. So why don't I just post the argument for you? And then we'll see if you can actually resist. We'll see if you can actually resist the argument.
What have I not made sense with?
Well, I am going to run this by you and see what kind of sense you make. So, right here is the argument. Now, premise 2 is just saying that your view affirms a given thing, and it's assumed that the argument is being run on someone whose view does in fact affirm that. Now, regardless of whether some concept is coherent or not, surely someone can say they think that concept makes sense or is the case, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the objection can't be to P2 then, can it?
Well, if they don't have uncertainty about the trait equalization to the point where they accept that they are one of the people who falls under P2, then sure.
Yeah, and obviously the argument is meant to be run on someone whose view says what P2 says.
Right.
Right, so the problem can't be with P2, can it?
But it's my understanding of the word trait equalization that I have uncertainty about.
Right, but say that the word was like blog blarg and you just had no idea what it meant, and premise 2 was you accept blog blarg, and someone says I accept blog blarg. I mean, that seems like it doesn't matter if you understand the concept at hand or not. If the premise is just that someone's view affirms a given concept, and
I mean, that's just modus ponens, isn't it? Right? So.
Well, I don't know how this relates.